At the Home Depot, we make it easy to turn your to-do list into a done list with our speedy delivery options. Need something in a hurry? We offer next day and even same day delivery on a wide variety of products. The best part is you can order straight from your couch. Our team is ready to help and get your order to you same day if it's placed by 4 p.m. on select products. When shopping online, filter by delivery to see availability options. Delivery at the speed you need, only at the Home Depot. We're back on the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T, recapping a 34-7 victory for the Atlanta Falcons over the New York Giants at home in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's DJ Shockley, Dave Archer. I'm Derek Rackley here to recap it all for you. And, of course, look ahead to a pivotal, and I mean pivotal, game against the Washington Commanders coming up on Sunday Night Football.
Hey now.
Prime time audience to check out your Atlanta Falcons. All right, guys, let's go ahead and break it down. By the way, happy holidays to everybody. If you happened to be in the stadium at the game yesterday, as we record here on a Monday, DJ dogged me out on halftime saying that I'm not a good singer. Told me the halftime was a whole lot better than me when I sing during our podcast and stuff, which I don't really sing. Yeah. But I gave him a little bit of side eye for that.
Well, fortunately, I didn't have to listen to that, and I was able to listen to Pastor Troy. Shout out to Pastor Troy, who was on stage at halftime for us. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So Atlanta Falcons.
I mean, can you sing though, Rack? I mean, if you want to put it out there and prove me wrong, here's the perfect platform to do it right now.
All right, well, let's see how much time we have left after we're done with the show, and then I'll get into it. Because, you know, the folks that are listening or watching, they want to hear what we have to say about the Falcons. And then maybe if we have time, I'll get a melody for you.
You know how you start a game is called a good play starter? That's what the song would be. It'll get the game started, get our podcast started.
Like table setter type thing?
Talk to me.
I'm already past it. The table's already set. Come on, Sean.
We ain't even got into it though.
Mentally, he's way past it. Mentally.
All right, fellas. Describe the game against the Giants in 3 words. It's kind of like a game show, right? Like I don't know. I can name that tune in 3 notes. DJ, can you describe that game in 3 words or less? You said I ain't good at that game?
No, that's for sure.
All right. I'm going with intriguing, scrappy, and rewarding.
Okay.
How about that?
Intriguing, scrappy,
You want me to explain that?
rewarding. No.
Okay.
No. I mean, because Arch, you just know. He gave us 3.
We went to introduce some higher learning. We know what words mean.
He gave us 3, but he wanted to turn to 3 into like 3.5 minutes.
I didn't know if y'all wanted me to explain why I felt they were those 3 things, but.
Not right now. Not right now. We're going to get into that. We'll get into that because it's Arch's turn, okay? 3 words or less describe the game against the Giants.
3-phase win.
3-phase win.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
You want me to explain that one to you?
No, we're good. All right. Mine is going to be scoring NEM. Apostrophe NEM.
What?
Points.
Scoring them
points.
Ooh, NEM.
34 points, 3rd highest.
Maybe we didn't go to institutions of higher learning. I don't know.
Just had to bring a little bit of, of slang into it.
I like it.
Okay, guys. Now we can actually get into some of your explanations of that. But first, I want to start with the new QB1 because obviously it was the biggest story coming out of the Atlanta Falcons training camp this past week was the rookie first-round draft pick Michael Penix Jr. getting his first career NFL start. I will go back to you. Maybe your 3 words can be used to describe Michael Penix Jr.'s performance.
I think part of it would be, I think, intriguing because I think we all had an anticipation to see what this would look like. I think we've all seen him in college. We've seen him in training camp. We've seen him, throughout this time leading up to this, and you still were kind of intrigued of what this kid could do, what he could actually put on forth on the field. And I start with the number one thing is when you come into your first day of camp, you come into your first day of install, and it's about the operation. And I want to give him a lot of credit for just the operation of the game. There's a lot of things that you work on in practice. Yeah, it feels good, but it's a lot different when you get on the field and Zach Robinson's not standing behind you and you can turn around and say, Coach, what was that again? You know what I'm saying? You don't get to do that in game time action. And then you look on the other side and you look at how many delay of games that Drew Lock and the New York Giants had. Falcons had none of those. The operation of just getting into the huddle, calling the play, getting outside, and then executing the play I think is the next step of it. And I thought he did a great job of that part of the game, managing the line of scrimmage, managing the motions, managing the shifts. Because there were a lot of times where the motion had to match up with his cadence. And I heard Jake Matthews talking about this was really the first week we got a chance to hear him in the huddle, hear his cadence while he goes through different things at the line of scrimmage. And you didn't have the issues that you had maybe on the other side. So I love the fact that operationally he was really good in that part of the game, and that's where it started. Because obviously you can't get a game or get a play started without being able to have each guy on the same page and all come together. But I thought the kid was poised. I thought he was confident. I thought he was in command. I thought he did a really good job of getting the football out. He was decisive with it. And he didn't hold on to it. No sacks. There were a couple times where he probably had an opportunity where he could have took a sack or could have been sacked, or he took off, or he threw the football away, or maybe just couldn't get it there, but he got the football out. And I think that's a big part of, especially with a young guy staying on schedule, is not taking those costly sacks or doing things that'll hurt your offense. And I thought he did a good job of that. So give Michael Penix Jr. a lot of credit for, first, I think the operational of getting his team going, but also managing some of the nuances inside their offense to get them moving down the field.
Arch, so many things can help out a young quarterback making his first start, right? Running game, right? You can have a running game that kind of takes the pressure off of him. But one of the other things that I kind of outlined coming into this game was just the mechanics and everything and the fundamentals and discipline. And you talked about it, 3 penalties for 30 yards in this game. How much does that help his first performance when he's not fighting the chains all game long because he's not sitting back at 1st and 20, 2nd and 17, 3rd and 19, right? There was very few occasions where he was sitting back trying to operate when you're sitting against an 8-ball if you're a premier starter in this league or a rookie.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Rack. I think that certainly eliminating those penalties, and we saw the Giants were plagued by them. You mentioned they came in as, I think, the 3rd most penalized team by a delay of game penalty in the National Football League.
It looked like
that didn't go away. We had some problems with some pre-snap penalties in the last few weeks, and give the guys credit around Michael Penix to eliminate that kind of stuff, so he didn't have to deal with it, nor did Zach Robinson. Remember, he's not trying to tailor the game for Michael, but he wants to keep him in manageable situations so he didn't have to overstress him.
Right.
And you mentioned a perfect scenario there where they stayed on schedule the whole time. What were you, 8 of 14 on 3rd down? He didn't even go for it on 4th down. I mean, it was an outstanding job there. His poise was incredible, guys. I know there's some analytics out there, and we've kind of fallen into that game more and more as we move forward in history here, analytics. But the ball was coming out 2.7 seconds per throw for him. That's outstanding. He was averaging, I think, over 7.5 yards an attempt in the first half. Now, that came down a little bit from an attempt standpoint because you started to take the air out of the ball a little bit, right? So his ability to stretch things, not deep down the field, but intermediately as opposed to, but he did know where to drop the football off. And I think it goes back to what you were talking about, Shock. His preparation, give him credit, because I think that he says, I'm going to lean on my prep, and I think people just kind of take that for granted. You and I both know you stand behind the starter and you go through the read as a quarterback if you're preparing properly every practice of every game, right? And that's what he did, and it looked like it. He didn't camp on a route. He dropped, and you see me getting this left-handed stance?
Yeah, like that.
He dropped, but he was boom, boom, ball out. Boom, boom, ball out, or ball out. But it wasn't that I'm going to let that guy try to win. Or sometimes as young quarterbacks, you'll sit on a guy because he's trying to fight off, and I'll wait for a count. He didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
You talk about poised and going through his reads, ball coming out on time. And your offensive line loves you for that, right? Hey, the ball's coming out on time. I just thought that the poise, it was a professional quarterback exhibition. He played like a pro, okay? He's only 24 years old, his first game in the National Football League. I thought it was an outstanding performance.
I think a lot of it has to do, and guys, I'm just guessing here, this is my opinion, I think a lot of it has to do with, I truly believe, him sitting and watching 14 weeks of NFL football behind Kirk Cousins, watching him tape, watching breakdown games after a win, after a loss, after good plays, after bad plays, and then through 15 weeks, he probably sat back there a little bit more comfortable because of all those things, because of all the preparation that he was able to do. It's different doing that preparation as a rookie, guys, when you're coming in week 1 to be the starter versus coming in week 15 to be the starter, and you've got a lot of stuff under your belt mentally, right? We know how important this game is mentally because everybody is so physically good in the National Football League. You got to be able to win between the ears, and I felt like that was what we got a chance to see. And I'm on the same page as you guys. The operation, just how comfortable he looked, making sure that they got the snap off, motions coming across. You didn't see guys like the shotgun snap hitting a motion guy coming across the formation. All that stuff seemed pretty clean. And DJ, you and I were sitting there right after halftime. There was a play that he made where he was under pressure and he escapes, and he's doing his best to just try to get himself free enough, and he's able to chuck it to just throw an incomplete pass, whereas I said that's probably an 8 or 9 yard loss. Instead, it's 2nd and 10, right? And those plays are so huge in saving field position. So we talked about three-phase game, Arch. Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the offense because Bijan Robinson just continues to have productive game after productive game. DJ, I mentioned to you right after halftime, he's got to make defenses just absolutely frustrated because, Arch, he always finds a way to just slip out of tackles. Like, you think you got him hemmed up? Good luck. He's going to find a way to break one or two.
Is it weird that here we are, we've seen this guy for – a year and 3/4, and you still laugh about plays that he makes in the ball game. Like, he starts talking about it, you could just start remembering stuff that comes to your head. I mean, how cool is that?
No question about it. I mean, this is folks, you're watching a special football player in Bijan Robinson and his ability to make people miss in short spaces, his power to be able to run through guys, his acceleration to run past people. I mean, this is a special player, and you're already talking about, I don't think it's a stretch to say this is one of the 5 best guys in the National Football League at his position. Yeah. He may be in the top 2 or 3.
Yep.
I mean, Saquon Barkley, say what you want to about he's having a monster year, and people are talking about him maybe breaking Eric Dickerson's rushing record, closing in on that. This is the guy that I could see do that at some point in his career.
Yep.
But I had a chance to play with a guy named Gerald Riggs who physically made some of the best 4- and 5-yard runs I've ever seen because he was a great big back and he would destroy somebody that penetrated, run through another guy, and he'd get me 3, you know?
Yep.
This guy does it with the ability to, it's a magic show. Look what I've got going on over here. No, I'm over here. It's one of those deals. And then let's not discount real quickly what the guy does in pass protection. Are you kidding me? They're trying to heat us up with A-gap pressure. They have been for the last several weeks. And who steps up? Bijan Robinson steps up and takes them right mustache to mustache, and giving guys a chance to throw. Penix got a couple balls off yesterday because of what Bijan Robinson's doing.
I'll say this to give some more context to what Archer is talking about. The first 3rd down of the ball game. I just did a breakdown on Bijan, and the first 3rd down of the ball game was 3rd and 7. Here's Drake's on the in cut. They go double A-gap, thinking they're going to mug. One guy is trying to push the center out the way so they can loop around. Bijan steps up and hits the guy, picks up the blitz of the guy who's trying to take out the center, and sees the guy looping around and gets a piece of him, and that little piece allows him to hit Drake on the end cut for a first down. He did that 2 or 3 times in the ball game. You're talking about, I remember one run, they go outside zone, they leverage the football great. Giants play well. Leverage the football, and then they get penetration. One jump cut, and then it gets him back to the inside. He goes another jump cut, and it gets him. He goes 3 jump cuts while still going vertical, where it could be a negative or 0-yard gain. Yeah. He gets 10 yards. It's unbelievable some of the stuff that he was doing in his ball game. There was one, Arch talked about the power. They go toss sweep, 6 his foot in the ground. They contact him at about the 12-yard line. When they spot the football, it's on the 7-yard line. So I'm like, here's the speed, the power. He has everything to what Arch just talked about. He has everything you want out of a back. And you talked about him being, one of the top guys in the league. Well, there's only two other guys who have, the most all-purpose yards in the National Football League. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson.
Wow. How about that? And the beauty is, when you take him out of the game, here comes the bowling ball of razor blades, and then you attack him out. Tyler Algier.
Forget about it.
I feel like we need to get apparel made because, like, Arch has just like put that phrase out there, and it's like when you say it, we all know who you're talking about. So let's start marketing it, okay?
It's almost like you can when you hear him say it, it's like, I don't want no parts of that. Bowling ball or razor blades, and it looks like that when he's running because dudes just are not trying to tackle him.
Darnell Mooney, Drake London, both with 5 receptions apiece in the game as well. But then we got to talk about the defensive side, and DJ, I'll start with you. And it's been fighting the turnover margin all season long, right? And sometimes you're hoping when you're going to be able to make the plays. And we've seen it the last couple of weeks, right? Bates and Simmons with interceptions the previous week. And then once again, 2 pick sixes in this game. I mean, how important is that for your rookie quarterback when your defense is scoring points for you?
14 points is, you can almost, probably in every statistical category, your defense scoring 14 points, you're probably going to win the ball game. And this is a unit that also is turning people over. But then we talked about it weeks ago. Oh, man, we got 10 sacks. We're near the bottom of the NFL. And you look up and you got dang near 30 sacks now. It's unbelievable what you've done the last few weeks and the way this team has come together. I heard Arnold Ebiketie talk about the attention to detail has risen a little bit from them on the defense standpoint. I heard Jesse Bates say, each guy is doing their 1/11th on defense. Mm-hmm. There's no perfect example than his pick six of each guy doing their 1/11th. And as QBs, what they did on that particular play, Arch, I can understand why Drew Lock was confused. Because anytime a guy goes across the field with a guy, for us, I know we got man coverage, no doubt about it. Jesse Bates goes in man coverage with Malik Neighbors. I know exactly what I'm getting if I'm Drew Lock. Snap of the football, there's communication. You can see D. Alford talking to Jesse, and they talk about it, and all of a sudden they're in zone coverage. And Jesse's got eyes on his particular area, and you can see him playing inside out, and then you see his eyes straight on Drew Lock, and he drives on the football, and we know what happens next. Just the ability to be able to communicate, and we talk about that. That's a perfect example of communication within a play. This is like you got to go through this within 1 or 2 seconds while you're in motion coming across, and you got to communicate to everybody so that there's not a busted coverage and they can go deep on you, whatever it may be. Yeah. So you love the fact that this defense is playing that style of football. They're showing you so many different things, and there's so many guys you can talk about on this defense that's playing some really great football, but I love the fact that they're turning people over, like you mentioned. They're getting to the quarterback, and they're making it hard on opposing defense.
Shock, you mentioned communication, and I remember sitting here 2 weeks ago in the Minnesota game, and you had talked about the lack of communication and giving up some big plays and some wide open plays. So that just shows that you're kind of learning from mistakes in the secondary, right? And you've got to get everybody on the same page. I believe Jesse Bates now 3 career pick sixes, and now 10 of his, I think, 24 interceptions now have come in Atlanta Falcons jersey. So
in 32 games.
Yeah, you think about the investment that they've made in that young man is paying off in spades. And Arch, just to speak about the defense as well.
Spades, I like that.
Yes. Kate just rolled off, right? I know you had a chance to talk to Caden Ellis. This guy is a tackling machine. He's a playmaking machine, and he just continues to show up each and every week.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable, Rack. I had a chance to talk with him with he's our player spotlight on the coaches show. He's got 131 tackles, which is 8th in the National Football League now. He had 122 tackles a year ago, so already with 2 games left to go, he's already above that number. He's the only player in the National Football League with 100-plus tackles and 5 sacks. He also has 16 quarterback hits, and you've got to go way down the list to find an edge rusher or an interior defensive lineman that has that kind of hits. There's nobody from a linebacker standpoint that's affected the quarterback the way he has. He's got double-digit tackles in 7 of his last 9 games. The dude is just balling out. And by the way, real quickly, Pro Bowl voting ends tonight. So if you want some of your favorite Falcons on the Pro Bowl, go on Twitter. The votes count double on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it. So go vote there. I mean, Kadero Hodge, he's the guy that blocked the 2 punts last week. He's been unbelievable. Recovered a punt for a touchdown. Caden Ellis, Jesse Bates, Bijan Robinson. Find your favorite Falcon and vote for him, but it counts double tonight, so you can put your Falcons on the Pro Bowl team.
Love it. So let's do that because there's some guys that are very deserving of that. We talked about a three-phase game, not necessarily going to dive so much into special teams, but the one big highlight is we had a change at kicker position with Riley Patterson coming in for Younghoe Koo, who was placed on injured reserve. Did end up missing his first field goal. I can't imagine the nerves and the rate of his heartbeat on that first kick because I think he'd only played in 4 games over the last 2 years. Hadn't kicked a field goal in a couple of years, but after that, settled down, was able to drive in a couple of more field goals.
If there's anybody that understands the nerves, you would be the guy that would
correct.
I went over like he just won nothing.
You're coming in for one snap. It's got to be on the money. There's nobody that knows more about nerves than those one-play situations. So what do you – I mean – is that something you would do, Rack? Would you go over and talk to him, talk him off the ledge a little bit? I'm sure you had to do it in your career a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because, like, I don't know how well the guys know him because he's fairly new, right? Sometimes it's like if you had an entire offseason to work with a guy and then all of a sudden he ends up winning the job and then it's opening week and he's going out there for his first field goal, you can go over there because you develop some chemistry, some camaraderie, and you can just maybe you make a joke. Like you understand his personality and what either calms him down or what makes him tick. I'm not sure that the team knows that yet about Riley Patterson, but he's a pro just like everybody else is, and you know how important it is to him. And so after the first miss, I thought he settled down. I watched him in kind of pregame.
Smoking it.
And he had plenty of life in the leg, right? Which is the first thing I noticed. He did have a couple balls that were drifting off to the right a little bit, so I was wondering if he was going to be able to correct that in game. Did pull the first one a little bit, but after that, he was on the money. So I think it was a solid special teams performance, especially when you're coming off of 2 blocked punts. It's going to be hard to kind of back that one up.
Shout out to Zach Harrison, who almost got him one in the ball game.
He did.
Forced him to move one away. But I want Arch to tell the fans kind of what Raheem said to him after the game about Riley Patterson and, when he after that first kick.
Yeah, the first one he come, I said you had a new guy kicking. He says, the first one sucked. After that, he made the next two.
Thanks, Coach. How'd you really feel? Do you want to expand on that a little bit more?
Raheem doesn't mix a lot of stuff up now. You're going to get pretty much what he's feeling.
He loves stats too, right? Yeah.
So that kind of wraps up the Giants game. But now, as I mentioned at the top of the podcast here, a pivotal game because the Falcons got an early Christmas present on Sunday Night Football last night.
First place Falcons too, by the way.
The first place in the NFC South Atlanta Falcons because the old Dallas Cowboys put together a performance to knock off the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. I'm curious to know if there's anybody within the organizations that's sending, like quarterbacks give like offensive linemen gifts over Christmas time. I'm wondering if there's anybody in the organization that's going to be sending the Cowboys some gifts. Thank you for knocking off the Tampa Bay Bucs and now puts Atlanta in first place in the NFC South for now. Yeah. Okay? For now.
Yeah, and you got a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do. The reason being is because, yes, this is a big-time game in front of a national audience against the Commanders on Sunday Night Football, and then you look at the Buccaneers, and their remaining games are against the Saints and the Panthers. So you're thinking, okay, they should be the better team in that game. They were probably the better team against the Cowboys. That's why it's called the National Football League, and you got to play the games on Sundays. But let's talk about the Commanders because we all know about this quarterback that they have, Jayden Daniels, probably the front runner of the Rookie of the Year, and what he has been doing this year. I'm going to start this question off as kind of a softball to you, Arch. What is it that makes the Washington Commanders such a challenge for opposing teams? Not just defending Daniels, but all across this football team. Where are the biggest challenges for the Falcons?
Well, I think that first of all, and we got a sample of it when Dan Quinn was here. He's got everybody on board. He's been able to put everything where they developed their brotherhood there. We had it here, obviously, and it worked well for us for a period of time. And I think he's done that in Washington. So I give Coach Quinn a ton of credit and his staff. But I think that the Energizer Bunny is the quarterback. Yep. There's no question about that. I mean, they've got McLaurin's a big-time wide receiver, and Robinson can run the football, and they've got guys on the defensive football side of the football that can get after you up front. But I really think that this was the dynamic they needed, was a guy that could go change the game either with his leg. And he looked like he was at LSU yesterday, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and look at his tape when he won the Heisman Trophy, he was throwing the ball deep, and then he would take off and run. He'd run 60 yards for a touchdown. That's what he looked like last night against a really good Philadelphia Eagle defense.
Yeah.
The Eagles turned him over 5 times in the game.
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me? And they still won the football game. Yeah. So, to me, he is the difference maker for them, and what Coach Quinn has done to install a belief that they can get it done.
You know, when I've watched him, even when he was back at LSU, guys, and I don't know if you agree with this kind of description of it, but when he takes off, it looks like he glides, right? Like it looks effortless. It seems like he's always slipping away from people, and I don't know if you want to call it deceptive speed. I think everybody knows that he has speed, but let me just throw out a couple of numbers so far. Jayden Daniels leads the team in rushing. He's got 737 yards rushing this season. Okay, 737 as a quarterback, who it's just behind Lamar Jackson. I want to say he's about 28 yards behind Lamar Jackson as far as getting that close to leading the NFL on quarterbacks in rushing yards. By the way, Bijan Robinson has 729 rushing yards for them. So these kind of a 1-2 punch between quarterback and running back. He's got 7 games where he's got 50 or more rushing yards. I think he's coming off 80-something yesterday against the Eagles. Now, the one thing I will say, DJ, he's got 8 interceptions on the season. 6 of them have come in the last 5 games. So maybe either he's making some mistakes or some opposing defenses are finding some opportunities in his game, because he was really good with the football as far as ball security early on in the season.
And I think you can contribute that to the amount of success that he's had. And you think about it, he's been sacked 37 times as well. So you look at it and say, okay, maybe he's holding on to the football. A lot of that is maybe him scrambling around, trying to make some plays. And then because of the success he's had with his legs, made to scramble and move, he's felt he's been able to force the football in a couple areas. And there's been a couple games where he's forced it and they've made the play for him. So I think he plays on the edge of being very aggressive, but also a guy who understands that he has the keys to the success of this offense. And this will be a huge challenge. And Arch laid it out well. There are a lot of good players on his team. There are a lot of guys that make it go. The defense can get after you. They got a bunch of guys up front. I mean, that front seven is really athletic. But this team goes as that guy goes.
Yep.
And the success that he has within this offense and his ability to be able to score and put up points. And, you know, you watch that game against the Eagles, his ability to be able to bring them back and make big-time throws in those moments, it tells you everything you need to know about him. So this will be probably one of the biggest challenges this defense has this year of not only can this guy just sling it around, but you got to be conscious of him getting outside the pocket as well, because he will take off, but he's also looking to throw the football as well. So how you go about really planning for him this week will be a big deal, and you just got to remember, this guy's going to make some plays. He's going to make some plays in the ball game, but you can't allow him to continue to bake him for 4 quarters and be the part that hurts you. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, but let's make no bones about it. The playoffs start on Sunday night.
No
and that's exactly what you have to have the mindset of. Our playoff season begins Sunday night football with everybody watching versus a quality opponent inside the NFC. And we were given a reprieve from the Cowboys. So guess what? How are you going to handle it now that you're back in the front row seat?
You guys know this because of our history together with Michael Vick when he was the starting quarterback here of this franchise, that I remember the years that he was playing his best. 3rd down conversions were really good for the Atlanta Falcons. I look up at the Commanders. They are 45.6% on 3rd down. That's 6th in the NFL. Think that quarterback has scrambled for a few of those first downs on 3rd down? So there's a lot of things that you have to think about. You mentioned Terry McLaurin, another 1,000-yard season for him. He's got 12 touchdown receptions this year, by far a career high for him. His previous career high was 7. And then Zach Ertz, he's got 55 catches and 4 touchdowns. Those 2 guys have combined for 16 of the 24 touchdown receptions. So that's where the production is coming in the passing game. So I'm going to throw you guys another softball here, and I think I know what the answer is going to be. Arch, I'm going to start with you. The Falcons can win this game on the road against the Commanders if they do this.
They got to score points.
Score points.
You're going to have to score, because when you look at what the Commanders have done recently, now the Cowboys beat them 34-26 about a month ago. a little less than a month ago. But they scored 42. They won a very close game with the Saints, and that goes back to saying, hey, it doesn't matter what weekend it is. You better come to play.
Yep.
They won that game late. I think the Saints had a chance to win the football game, went for 2, and Rattler missed the throw, or they win the football game. They won that game at 20-19, but they just put 36 on one of the better defenses, we think one of the better defenses in the league in Philly. So to me, you're going to have to score points. This is going to be one of those ones where you hope you get a couple of takeaways, maybe you get a sack or two, get the ball out. But you're going to have to ramp up a little bit. And if the defense scores 2 touchdowns for you, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to have a similar point output performance as you had this weekend.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, that looked – I mean, it was like one of the first times the entire season, guys, where it was like you're in the second half and you kind of feeling comfortable about the game. Now, granted, the NFL is generally very a game that's not comfortable, especially when it comes to scoring. But every once in a while, you mentioned it, Washington's had a couple blowouts this year because they've been able to score so many points. Same question to you, DJ. Falcons win this game on Sunday Night Football if they do what?
I think a big part of this ball game is who wins the turnover margin, and I think offensively you cannot turn the football over. And Art just mentioned how much the ability they can to score the football. Well, guess what? If you give them extra opportunities, that puts so much pressure on your young rookie quarterback on the road to trying to keep up. So I think you cannot turn the football over this ball game and win that part of the ball game, because you give them extra opportunities, you give that quarterback over there more chances to put the football in the end zone. 9 times out of 10, he's going to find a way to do that. So you got to make sure you take care of the football in this ball game. And if you're able to possess the football, now sometimes possession of football doesn't lead to winning ball games. You can, hold it for, a 12-minute drive and get nothing. But I think you have to be able to sustain some drives in this ball game to be able to win it. But most importantly, you got to take care of the rock.
10 one-score games for both these teams, I believe. I think that they're 7-3 in one-score games. Atlanta, I think, is 6-4 in one-score games. So both teams have played in a lot of close games. Now, they've had a couple of games. They beat the Titans 42-19. Atlanta just beat the Giants 34-7. So they've had a couple of those. But for the most part, they've been really close games, even with the dynamic ability of what Jayden Daniels brings to the table.
One thing I do like about this matchup from the Falcons defense going up against Daniels and company is that they're fairly healthy, and I say that knock on wood. You're going to have Terrell, you're going to have Hughes, and you're going to have those 2 safeties out there. So I think communication's going to be huge, but I like that matchup. Like, I want to see the veteran safeties and see if they can find an opportunity to take advantage of a decision or a poor decision by Jayden Daniels and take one away, just like we saw with Drew Lock last week. But my key to this one is going to be make Jayden Daniels have a pedestrian performance. I'm not saying shut him down, okay? Because certain players, you're not going to shut them out because they're just great players. And I don't know if I want to say great yet, but he is a great talent. But this needs to be like a 175 yards passing and 50 yards rushing. I think if that's the game, you got a chance to win. But if he throws for 5 touchdowns like he did against Philadelphia, you're going to be in for a grind. Okay.
Well, hey, Michael Penix may be going into this game saying, "Hey, that guy got my Heisman Trophy. I'm going to light it up." So you got 2 guys that were right there for the Heisman Trophy last year. So what a great stage for just a football fan. You got 2 of the best quarterbacks coming out in the draft this year. 2 guys, 1-2 in the Heisman Trophy balloting. 2 guys that are just beginning their careers. What a great and how about the idea that NBC flex it to Sunday night? What a great mode. By the way, real quickly, how hard was it for you guys to pull for the Cowboys last night?
That was tough. It was.
I really struggled with that concept because there's nobody I dislike more than the Cowboys. So congratulations to the Cowboys. How about those boys? But
how about them boys? So there it is. Kind of broke it down for you as the Falcons will face off with the 10-5 Commanders on Sunday Night Football this week. And you look like you have one more thing that you got to say.
Get it, Sean.
I do. Hey, shout out to my man Mike Vick, man, new head coach.
Hey, Mike. All right.
I talked to him a couple of days ago. He's excited. He's looking forward to the new challenge. So shout out to Mike, man, taking on a new challenge, going to be a new head coach, man, at a place that he knows really well in Virginia. So he's gonna be a great dude for
Shock was talking, maybe a sidelight as an OC. He's available if you need him.
I told him I wasn't ready. He definitely says I wasn't ready.
Well, I did see a quick clip of him talking about it, and he got a little emotional about it. And
That's awesome.
So it's one thing, I'm sure you guys have had it as well. Like when I talk to average fans and they find out what time period I played in, they always want to ask, What was it like playing with Michael Vick?
Yeah.
How good of a player was he? Well, now we're going to find out how good of a coach he is, because it's a grind, but I think it's a great opportunity for him to give back, and I can only see him out on the recruiting trail when he starts.
Didn't he? When that guy walks in your room, yes, Mike, where do I sign?
This is Mike Vick. I want to talk to you about playing for Norfolk State. Excuse me, Mike Vick?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I'm in on
take that call.
coach.
Yeah, you go take that
Gotta
call.
get this autograph football, please.
Yeah.
All right, Falcons back in action on the road this Sunday night, 8:20 p.m. on NBC against the Washington Commanders. And like we say every week, we'll be back here next week to break it all down here on the Falcons Audible, presented by AT&T. That's Shock. That's Arch. I'm Rack. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care, everybody, and happy holidays.
Pro Bowl voting. Vote. Go vote. On Twitter or X or Rackley or whatever it's called now.